Live from Washington, D.C., Sekulow Live. Phone lines are open for your questions right now. And now, Chief Counsel for the American Center for Law and Justice, Sekulow.
So the President of the United States, President Donald Trump, just recognized Jerusalem as the capital of Israel. The U.S. Is going to move our embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. It is the law. It is a monumental victory. We've been arguing this for decades. This is something that millions of members of the American Center for Law and Justice and our affiliates around the world have been working on for 25 years. And this president delivered that. So it was a huge thank you. And I'm grateful. I let the president know that we are all grateful. And again, our policies in the United States are not going to be dictated by a day of rage. Than, give me your, it's very important for people to understand. You've got Chuck Schumer, leading Democrat in the Senate. You've got Eliot Engel in the House, leading Democrat, supporting the president on this.
Absolutely. Much like this has been a priority for the ACLJ for 25 years, this has been a priority for a bipartisan majority in both the House and Senate for decades as well. So the news yesterday was overwhelmingly well received. And I would just say one thing touch on one thing that Rami said. We led by example, Jay, in locating our office in Jerusalem. So this is not something that we're not willing to put ourselves in that position as well. And I got a text message from a friend in Jerusalem last night, Jay, and it was a video of residents of Jerusalem walking through the streets singing "America the Beautiful," and this is something that people there have been wanting for decades as well. So it's a proud moment for those of us here at the ACLJ, but it was a great picture for me to look inside of Jerusalem and see what it means to them as well. I was glad that Rami was able to reflect that for us.
No, it's a stunning moment.
Let's go to Mike on line 5. Mike, you're on the air.
Hey, Mike, go ahead. You're on.
Yeah, I usually line up Democrat, and I have to tell you, across the aisle on this one, it's a historic, great achievement. It's been a long time coming, and it's awesome. The only worry I have is, like you mentioned, it would say Jerusalem on your passport and stuff. I'd be worried about identifying these people because, like you say, they might be a target of hate, these backlash of crazy people. Yeah,
well, look, first of all, let me say this, Mike. I said at the beginning, this was bipartisan support for the president. The fact of the matter is Chuck Schumer, who's the minority leader in the United States Senate, backed what the president said and backed his actions and support. And as I also mentioned, Representative Eliot Engel said this: "This decision is long overdue and helps correct a decades-long indignity. I support the decision to recognize Jerusalem as the eternal capital of Israel and to move the U.S. Embassy there. It recognizes where Israel's government and the parliament and prime minister is based, as well as the ancient and unbreakable connection between the Jewish people and Jerusalem." So, again, this was as bipartisan as you could get when you got the leaders of the House and the Senate saying this. And I think the takeaway from this, I hope everybody understands, is that our foreign policy is not going to be dictated by a day of rage or a terrorist group. Those days are done. We're not afraid, nor are the Israelis. All right, folks, as we get ready to go to a break, let me encourage you. We've been talking about the situation in Jerusalem, this big move by the president. Big move for Israel, big move for the United States. Your support of the ACLJ allows us to do our work in Jerusalem. We've got an office there. Go to aclj.org, or you can call in your pledge at 1-877-989-2255. That's 877-989-2255 or aclj.org.
Israel is under constant deadly terrorist knife and rocket attacks. Jewish students, professors, and Christians who support Israel face vicious discrimination at U.S. universities, all in an attempt to delegitimize the state of Israel. Israel is our ally, the Jewish people our friends. It's our duty to defend them. That's why the ACLJ is launching a massive new multinational legal campaign in defense of Israel, in the U.S., at the UN, and with world leaders. But we need these global leaders to hear from you now. Add your name to our new petition, a petition to defend Israel from anti-Israel attacks across the globe. Call now, 1-877-989-2255. That's 1-877-989-2255. That's 1-877-989 989-2255, or you can add your name online, aclj.org.
Let's go ahead and go right to the phones. Let's go to Sammy, who's calling from North Carolina. Sammy, go ahead.
Okay, my question is this. I watched yesterday of the signing, which I thought was a great thing. But what I saw was a lot of people on the left more or less advocating for violence in that area. So instead of them seeing everybody in the U.S. come together in the government, they're actually advocating the violent side. How do you think that will impact that area after this?
Let me tell you how it's going to impact the area. The United States of America, under the presidency of Donald Trump, is not going to have our foreign policy dictated by terrorists, whether it's Hamas, Hezbollah, Al-Qaeda, or vigilante groups operating in the Palestinian Authority. It's just not going to happen. Those days are over. So I think this, number one, I think, by the way, takes this issue off the table, and it means the Palestinians will get to the table because they've got no choice. But you know what? How can you negotiate with Hamas, who's calling for Israel's destruction? They're in a coalition government. I mean, people forget that, Jordan, that the government of the Palestinian Authority is a farce.
That's right. I mean, there is no one to negotiate with. So the Palestinian Authority it really has power because the United States and Israel prop it up as a governing authority in the West Bank. In the Gaza Strip, it is a terror organization. And by the way, that terror organization, its political leader, was on the phone yesterday with Turkey's prime minister, Turkey's president, Erdogan, talking about what they will do in response to the U.S. recognizing Jerusalem as Israel's capital. That is a leader of a NATO member state talking to a head of an organization that the United States recognizes as a foreign terrorist organization. And they are the ones who really have any control when it comes to Palestinian territories. But their control is in the Gaza Strip, not the West Bank. And they're a terror group.
So listen to what Mahmoud Abbas, whose war name is Abu Mazen.
The recognition of Jerusalem as the capital is rejected by the Arab world and goes against all the efforts to foster peace. And our declaration, nothing less than a declaration that the United States is withdrawing from the role it has played over the last decades regarding the peace process.
And exactly what has that role been over the last, I'll say, 2 decades? And what pieces actually took place over that? Nothing. So now you've got the president that's the art of the deal and understands things and understands the negotiations. Our foreign policy is not going to be controlled by terrorists. Period. End of discussion. Logan, let's take a caller comment.
All right, Julie is calling in Santa Monica, California. You're on the air.
Hey, Julie, go ahead.
Hi, Jay and Jordan, and anyone else who's there.
Logan and Than, go ahead.
I don't think we can overlook the spiritual implications of this move by President Trump. He has done more to protect America from threats like North Korea and all the other threats that we have in the world in this one move by recognizing Jerusalem as the capital of Israel and moving our embassy there than anything else that could be done. And I just think God is smiling down on our country and on our president right now and giving him great favor for this.
You know, President Trump knew when he made the statement that there's going to be reaction in some of the other countries. Here's what he said, number 19.
There will, of course, be disagreement and dissent regarding this announcement. But we are confident that ultimately, as we work through these disagreements, we will arrive at a peace and a place far greater in understanding and cooperation.
I'm telling you something. I think the president did phenomenal. This was a bold, smart move. Again, I think the takeaway is our foreign policy is not going to be determined by terrorists. Then let's go through kind of what the reaction has been, and then I want to ask Jordan the terrorism question, because tomorrow's supposed to be the day of rage. But then what you're hearing in Washington right now is pretty much that people are supporting this. I mean, there's a few dissenters, but not many.
Yeah, there are some, I think, that are taking political opportunity to oppose the president because he's the president. But I think the vast majority of Congress, because most of them, Jay, are on the record over the last 2 decades supporting this move, have been positive. And just on this point of violence that you've been talking about, I want to say this again. The very groups that are threatening violence are the same ones who have been perpetrating violence for the last 22 years while our embassy has been in Tel Aviv. So the location of the U.S. embassy is not the cause of violence. It's the motive of those who are actually committing the violence.
Yeah, absolutely right. And so, but Jordan, we know, you and I have dealt a lot in the region, including in the West Bank, and we've been down to the border of Gaza. It's not going to be shocking if there's a reaction tomorrow from them, but there is going to be a price to pay if they do it.
No, I mean, the difference will be this. From the Gaza Strip, will Hamas engage the Palestinian Islamic Jihad to fire rockets into Israel? Will they take that kind of action, not just terror attacks in the sense of trying to send in suicide bombers? That would be more from the West Bank and that kind of action, or trying to shoot at or engage Israeli soldiers in the West Bank. That would be more the West Bank side. Will Hamas try to encourage suicide actions, bus attacks kind of things in Israel, or will they take that next step of actually firing rockets into Israel? Again, to show their displeasure, I guess you could say, with this. They sure have built up a lot. I mean, we'll see what they actually do. I don't want to encourage anything, but we'll see if they actually even have the resources. I mean, they're supposed to be running governments and taking care of their own people to engage a country that can take them apart so quickly.
Got a couple lines open, Logan. Let's take a call or a comment.
Yeah, a comment came in. We addressed this earlier in the show, but I think in the second half it's worth addressing again because people are still commenting on social media about it. Ellen said, Jay, how does the leader of a different country step in to declare the capital of another country?
So constitutionally, a sovereign nation, sovereign state, has the authority to determine where its capital is, what region its capital is. For Israel, they declare Jerusalem as the capital of Israel. Under international law, that should be it. But unlike every other country, a lot of countries refuse to recognize Israel as the capital of the Jewish state. So when 1995 legislation was passed that allowed for and mandated the recognition and ultimately the move of the embassy, but that's just been sitting there and never enforced. The President of the United States took his constitutional authority under Article 2, as well as his statutory authority for the legislation that was passed in 1995, the Jerusalem Embassy Act of 1995, utilizing both the statutory and constitutional authority, and declared that the capital of Israel, as far as the United States is concerned, is Jerusalem, and he encouraged other governments to do just that. But let me tell you the reaction. Forget the other governments. I want to play Chris Matthews from MSNBC. We've got 3 phone lines open. I suspect once we play this, we won't have any. Take a listen to this.
Don't think this isn't related to Alabama next week. It is related because it's the Christian evangelicals down there with their crazy ideas about Israel, which is, I don't know, mythical. They don't understand the situation over there and how tricky it is ethnically and tribally. They don't care because it's a religious belief. Trump's playing to that this week. You watch him.
All right, so let me challenge Chris Matthews, who is not a practicing lawyer. I don't think he is a lawyer. But if he is, he shouldn't be. First of all, the president had the constitutional authority and the statutory authority to do this. And Israel's already the recognized capital. Jerusalem is already the recognized capital of Israel. That's number one. Number two, blaming evangelicals. That's what he did. And evangelicals specifically in the state of Alabama with their crazy ideas about what Israel, which is, ideas about Israel. What's the crazy idea? Is the crazy idea that we are following international law and recognizing the capital that the nation's sovereign state has recognized as its capital? Is it a crazy evangelical idea to say, you know what, we're not going to have foreign policy of the United States dictated by terrorists? And then he says it's mythical because he doesn't believe anything that's in the Bible. It's only been the capital since King David 3,000 years ago. And they don't understand the situation over there. They, the evangelicals. Only Chris Matthews and his MSNBC elites understand it. Well, really? We've been working over there for 2 decades. I've represented the interests of Israel before some of the biggest tribunals in the world, including the International Criminal Court in The Hague and the United Nations. Stan has done that, and so has Jordan. You know what, Chris Matthews? Shame on you for trying to blame a group of people because of your own ignorance, not theirs. I just want to make that on the record.
Yeah, I mean, I guess Chris Matthews doesn't know that the seat of Israel's government is in Jerusalem. Typically, that's where you have your embassy because you want to work with the government officials as closely as possible when your country is represented there in their embassy. You want to make it as easy as possible. The Knesset is there, the prime minister's residence, the president's residence, the Knesset, all in Jerusalem. You won't find that in Tel Aviv, where our current embassy is. You will find that in Jerusalem, which is Israel's capital, not mythical, actual buildings that have been operating and passing laws and legislation, including Israel's Supreme Court, for many decades, since the founding of the modern Jewish state. Chris Matthews just wants to blame Christians. Not unusual that we've seen this coming out, the dogma talk, the Orthodox Christian talk. Again, Chris Matthews just buying right into that.
Yep. All right, folks, as we get ready to go to a break, let me encourage you. We've been talking about the situation in Jerusalem, this big move by the president, big move for Israel, big move for the United States. Your support of the ACLJ allows us to do our work in Jerusalem. We've got an office there. Go to aclj.org, or you can call in your pledge at 1-877-989-2255. That's 877-989-2255 or aclj.org.
Israel is under constant deadly terrorist knife and rocket attacks. Jewish students, professors, and Christians who support Israel face vicious discrimination at U.S. universities, all in an attempt to delegitimize the state of Israel. Israel is our ally, the Jewish people our friends. It's our duty to defend them. That's why the ACLJ is launching a massive new multinational legal campaign in defense of Israel, in the U.S., at the UN, and with world leaders. But we need these global leaders to hear from you now. Add your name to our new petition, a petition to defend Israel from anti-Israel attacks across the globe. Call now, 1-877-989-2255. That's 1-877-989-2255. That's 1-877-989-2255. Or you can add your name online, aclj.org.
Was Hope of Jerusalem by the Sekulow Band. What an appropriate song for this day.
Let's go to Dennis in Connecticut online, too. You're on the air.
Hi, Dennis.
Hey, guys. I love the show.
Thanks.
Got a quick question for you. Actually, two questions,
Sure.
and I think Jay addressed my second one. If God declares this, he did declare Jerusalem this capital, why does the Jewish state say they're entertained? I thought I heard it yesterday on the news that there possibly could be a dual capital with the Palestine state. And second, Jay, I maybe addressed it. Is it possible for these neighboring states that are so concerned?
Yeah.
Why don't they give them some territory?
Well, there
Why
you
don't
go.
they just,
Your second question is you hit the mark. If they're so concerned about the Palestinians having their own state, give them some land in Jordan. They were there anyways. I mean, they're right next door. But Gaza. Do you think the Egyptians want a Palestinian state on their border? Here's the answer. No, they don't. Let's go ahead and take some more calls.
Jerry's been holding for a long time. Jerry, welcome from Pennsylvania.
Jerry, I'm going to send you two of our books, Rise of ISIS and Unholy Alliance. So you stay on the line after we're done. Go ahead, Jerry.
Oh, well, thank you.
Yep.
One thing that concerns me, if somebody from the left becomes president sometime after Donald Trump is finished, will they be able to reverse the recognition of Jerusalem as the capital of Israel?
Under a technical sense, I mean, I guess they could. I will tell you, there's bipartisan support for this, and once it's done, it's done. And I think, look, elections always have consequences, but I don't see it. It's been on the books since 1995. It's just this was a president that finally enforced it.
I think we'd have to look at the law a little bit more closer to answer that hypothetical for a future president, because what the law says is that since 1995, Jerusalem should be the capital of Israel. That was since 1995 by congressional action. And that by 1999, that the embassy of the United States should be in Jerusalem. And it has this waiver, that the president has waiver periods to suspend for 6 months periods of a time. Now, what I don't see in here is that if you do go ahead and take these steps of declaring Jerusalem as the capital of Israel, and then later also moving the embassy, if you can, if the waiver period is then over, because you've taken the action the statute lays out, would you have to then go back and pass a new law to authorize the president to move the embassy and to move the capital? Because the waiver provision was to slow it down, not to go back on something.
Dan, what's your thoughts on that?
I think once completed, if any future president tried to move it back, I think an overwhelming majority of Congress would come back and prohibit the use of any funds from moving it back. Once this embassy is up, built, and operational in Jerusalem, Jay, it's staying there.
I cannot imagine many presidential candidates, even on the left, campaigning and saying,
move it.
Because they got to move. They still have to get purple state voters. I pledge to move Israel's capital of Jerusalem back to Tel Aviv. That is not going to run on any Democrat or Republican or maybe some independent campaign, I guess.
Our director of policy pointed this out, that just think last year's UN declaration, Resolution 2334, declaring that Judaism's holiest places in Jerusalem to be occupied territories and a flagrant violation under international law, and the United States abstained. And less than a year later, or about a year later, what happens? The United States recognizes Israel's capital as Jerusalem, is moving its embassy. There you go. Take calls.
All right.
I don't have to say much more than that. Yep.
Let's go to Raj in Virginia. Also been hold for a long time. Raj, thanks.
Hey, Raj, go ahead.
What a precious moment this is.
Yep.
We have prayed for the peace of Jerusalem.
Yep.
And the promises of Scripture. And Jay and your whole team, I have been thanking the Lord for you, your commitment to this, unwavering commitment. And it was just made so plain in Chris Matthews' comments about the evangelical Christian community. This has solidified that bond which exists between the believers in the Hebrew faith and in the Christian faith. And the solid support there have been amongst the evangelical Christian community. So from the bottom of my heart, I thank you. And if I might have a request for music.
Yep.
I believe Sandra Sheshkin has sang a beautiful song, Jerusalem, Jerusalem.
Oh, yeah, it's famous, very much so. We'll get that in the mix. That's a good idea. We're going to play our song, Hope for Jerusalem, at the end of this broadcast for those on Facebook and Periscope. Logan, let's keep grabbing some calls if we can here.
All right, Pam, Pennsylvania, you're on the air quickly.
Hey, Pam, real quick.
Yeah, I just wanted to say I'm proud and thankful for our president and for the action that he's taken for Israel, and also very thankful and proud of what you all do in keeping us informed and fighting for what's right. And I think that the responses of different nations and individuals in our country against what our president has done only reveals their true hearts towards Israel.
We will find out tonight and tomorrow and during the day what reaction is. Is the day of rage going to happen? And if it does, you know what I say? I hate it. I don't like it. I don't like when they do it. I don't want innocent civilians. I don't want anybody harmed. But the fact is, terrorists aren't dictating the foreign policy of the United States of America. Take that one to the bank. That's the way it is now. That's going to do it for the broadcast today, folks. A lot of people called in thanking us, which we really appreciate. But the fact of the matter is we need to thank you. Without your support of the ACLJ, our office in Jerusalem doesn't exist. And our ability to do this work around the globe doesn't exist. So again, a huge thank you to our friends that support the work of the American Center for Law and Justice. ACLJ.org. That's ACLJ.org or 1-877-989-2255 or ACLJ.org. As we end the broadcast today, our band, the Jay Sekulow Band, did a great tune called Hope of Jerusalem. Here it is.
From these old wooden spaces, remembering those who have passed through before. Scent of the primrose, my symbol of courage, my sentiment hungers to understand more. Friends march together in deep conversation, passions and concerns to this holy land. All of the Hosanna with conflict, bringing the thoughts to the questions I ask. Without understanding, we can't have agreement between. 'Cause all of our wants fill this room. Will it change what we've seen? And only God knows when the calm from the storm begins. The basis of all this day is going to end. When nations can live in peace, struggle and battles cease, under the hope of Jerusalem. Is this a day we can start a new chapter, sharing the blame for the sins of the past, having the vision to change our condition, out from the shadows our journeys have cast? Think of the time when our children's children will never be touched by the sting of the grave. There is no comfort in acting with courage, but nothing is too difficult for the brave. Although we come from an anguish and grieving land, the prayer of our heart is the peace that can only come from God's hand. And only God knows when the calm from the storm begins. The basis of hope is going to end. When nations can live